Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Women Waken podcast. Today, I have a very special episode with an in-studio guest, the lovely Jacquie Elliott. Jacquie, welcome to the Women Waken podcast. Welcome to my couch.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Really am. And I love the topic.
Yes, we had a fabulous time chatting about all things divine feminine energy, the feminine versus masculine energy. When I was a guest on
My
your
radio
show, your radio show at KPOV at The Point.
Yeah.
You and Carolyn Esky are the hosts for the Friday.
Right.
Did you have a show today?
Yes, we did.
You were at the studio this morning?
Yes, I was.
Oh, I never realized that. Who's your guest?
We had kids from the youth hour.
Oh,
so
fun.
Talking about, the youth shows that they promote. It was a lot of fun. It was great.
Great. Yeah. So you're a busy lady today.
I am.
You're kind of a celebrity. You're just going the rounds from your own show to my show.
Exactly. Well, I've been looking forward to this because, you and I had talked and there was so much that came up that we just didn't have time to finish. So yeah. I welcome the opportunity to finish it.
Yeah. And let's go. Let's finish it. Let's expand it. Let's explore it. So I know that a lot of what we talked about centered on your work, Jacquie, because you are a certified life, relationship, and spiritual coach.
Yes.
So that's a lot about what I talk about. My show is essentially about spirituality and relationships and life in general. So we have a lot of overlapping themes. So tell us a little bit about specifically the work you do as a coach in these areas.
Okay. So as a life coach, I kind of guide people through setting goals and keeping their goals and discovering their values. We discussed that before. It's so important before you set your goals to understand that the goals are in alignment with your values. So we do a lot of that kind of work. If say you want to write a book, then we would coach you on, setting goals. Why are you, then discuss why aren't you keeping those goals, helping you with the blocks, helping you discover what that voice in your head is saying so that you can be in alignment with it and you're all stay motivated to reach your goals. That's more of the life coaching that I do. Then I became a relationship coach because I realized that a lot of things that people had trouble with were relationships. They had trouble with boundaries. They had trouble with family. They had trouble setting boundaries at work. They had trouble making friends. And so I became a relationship coach so that I could also give people tools to help them when they got stuck in relationships. And then finally, the spiritual coaching came out of working with clients and finding that many of the clients that I worked with were stuck in their head. They had a lot of self-awareness, but they weren't able to bring it down here and actually, feel guided and hear their own voice or whatever voice they wanted to do. So I felt it was really important to learn to take someone like that who's saying over and over, well, I was raised that way and, that's just the way things are. And I have a lot of fears and blah, 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 to just, wait a minute, let's just take that down. Let's go into your body now and let's hear from what your guidance, whatever you want to call it, God, Jesus, Gaia, higher power, higher self, loving spirit, whatever it is, it's really, I believe it's very important. And I know in my own life, it was important to finally be able to go in and find that loving source that would lead me to where I wanted to go. I self-sabotaged a lot. And when I'm in my higher self and I tune in through journaling, through all kinds of different tools, I am in my best self. And then the fear doesn't matter. The things people told me doesn't matter. I know our artists are told a lot, oh, art isn't a good thing to get into. You're not going to make money, blah, blah. It's so hard. Actors have the same issue. Oh, it's so hard. But, if that's what your heart says, then we have to tune into that space where you can hear that loving, supportive voice. And so that's why I became a spiritual coach. And I'll tell you, Whitney, that upped my game a lot. I really saw breakthroughs with clients once I was able to just be with them and guided meditations take them there.
Yeah, it's such important work, I believe, at this time in particular, because I think that this has become almost a part of the human condition, that we tend to see our perceived lack, our perceived unworthiness, and that we believe we have to earn our value and worth in this world, and that we don't feel that we inherently have it, right? And I think particularly women have this sense of consistent deficit or insecurity, self-doubt, lack of self-confidence for a myriad of reasons. You know, for hundreds of years, we've been told that we don't really have a place in any office of importance, right? That we're just supposed to keep in our place of being a supporter to the masculine, which is going to run the show. And we can't help but feel this question of, well, what does that say about me? What does that mean? Does it mean that I don't have the things that I need to be successful, to pursue the things that I want to feel good about myself? Because I think for, you know, a long, long time, women have been told whether or not we're valuable, and we take what other people say to heart.
And in my generation, you know, my mother, I love her to death, but, you know, she didn't take care of herself. She smoked 5 packs a day, and she didn't put seatbelts on, and she never took care of herself. She didn't go to get massages and things like that. She would get her hair done, but, you know, that was not something that I was taught back in my generation when I grew up, you know, and I grew up with aunts and uncles who were aunts actually, who were very unhappy because they were put in that role. My mother had 4 children. My aunt had 4 children. I had 2, and I'm telling you, that was not easy. It's not easy being a mother. And especially if you're forced into that role, like my parents were, perhaps your grandparents. And so that was a whole thing that I think women are starting to come out of, and more women are going to college now than men. I mean, we're trending in a really good direction. Yeah. But I think we get a lot of who we think we are from the roles that our parents put on us, and our teachers and our siblings and society puts on us. Yeah. And the trick of enlightenment is to go back to that place where you were really you know? I was sharing with you earlier that I feel like now in my old age, I get to go back and bring Jacqueline forward, and, you know, and I get to nurture her, and I get to let her play, and I get to do all of that. I don't have to listen to anybody telling me what's right or wrong anymore for me. And there's a sense of freedom, a real sense of freedom.
Absolutely. And for me, that's one of my favorite words, and the word that really motivates me to do what I do as a podcaster, but also in my therapy is freedom. Is that because, again, with the human condition, a lot of us, there's a quote that I love that says, humans are free, but everywhere we live in chains. Yes. And I think the chains we live in is part of what your work is also, which is what you call abusive brain chatter, the things that we tell ourselves. We're imprisoned by our thoughts, but also just imprisoned by our beliefs about ourselves, our perceived limitations, when the truth is that there is infinite potential for every human being. But we keep this very small box currently about what we can do or what's safe to do, right? You were speaking of your parents' generation. I think my parents as well, and even my peers around me, I see them following suit because they don't know what else to do. And they just know that this is what is expected of them. And so they make choices that may or may not be aligned with their higher self. And that was a big motivation for me starting Women Waken, and things I speak about is we have this guiding light. We have this guiding intuition that, you know, we can call it our higher selves. We can call it our connection with source, whatever people feel called or inspired or connected with. But it's this yearning that says, don't let your limit, like your perception, be the limit for potential, right? Look beyond what is, because, you know, if you look back thousands of years, we lived in a way that would be unrecognizable, right? We've had all types of new innovations. We live in a different way. Well, who's to say that there's not even further developments we can make, even different ways of living? But if we only follow what everybody else tells us to do, then we're just going to keep the way that things are. But you can't do that, because you can't hold the human spirit down. The human spirit will always be seeking to evolve and grow. And again, that's what I see, especially with women, is this desire, because women more so than men, I think, are held back. Men are as well. We talked about this on my show we can talk about it more, but both the divine feminine and masculine are holding themselves back. They're not reaching their full capacity because, again, they feel boxed in, they feel chained. But our souls have a yearning to create the new, to bring new things and experiences. And I think the biggest impetus at this time is to release the imprisonment of the human spirit and to allow ourselves to feel so good about who we are and not be governed by fear, but rather to be inspired and aligned with love.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. In fact, at my retreats, and even in my spiritual coaching, one of the exercises we do is that we go back to, in guided meditation, we go back to the last place we lost our soul. Where did we leave it? And it's so powerful, Whitney, because, you know, through God, you just kind of going back, and everybody that I do this with lands on a date. They know exactly. I was 10 years old. I was 4 years old. And they just see that's when the light kind of went out. And, you know, I think we have to stifle that light because we're told in each culture, no matter which culture, Chinese, American, whatever, you know, how the culture is to behave. And so we have to dim that light.
Yeah.
If we want to survive, if we want to be loved, if we want to be supported, we dim that light. But now, in your older age, I encourage people to go back, find where you left it. And I actually, you know, visualize it and then, you know, put it in a box, put it in, you know, red velvet, wrap it however you want to visualize it and bring it back, and then bring it back to yourself and know that you are now the keeper of your soul. And because you're the keeper of your soul, you get to, this is a good way for you to measure against, how you want to be in the world. I always ask that question, coaching, who do you want to be? I don't know who I want to be. Well, once you bring back your soul, you get to say, I want to be a person of kindness. Well, that's in alignment with my soul. I want to be a healer. That's in alignment with my soul. I want to be somebody who gives something back to the world. That's in alignment with my soul. And once you take it back and you, like you said, you free it, now even more options open for you. But you've got to, one thing is get rid of that abusive brain chatter. You have to understand that your brain is going to hold you back because it's going to want to take the comfortable path.
Always. And what you're speaking to, well, first of all, there's the concept of soul retrieval, which is essentially what we're talking about, which is kind of going back to, as you said, the places in your life on your path that you left parts of yourself. And sometimes it's, you know, the work I do as a therapist is when they often get left behind in very traumatic episodes, right? Experiences where the person felt that who they were was not okay, or that what happened to them was so horrific that they couldn't accept that part. So they almost try to cut off that part of themselves. And we can only fully embrace our soul when we have the whole thing, right? We can't say pick and choose which parts of ourselves that we want to accept. The reality is that we have to welcome in with love every single version of ourselves that we've had. And once we do, just as you said, then we can start to embrace the qualities of our soul. And a mantra I've started stating to myself, because I've, you know, over the years, I've had a lot of work around this, but even more so recently, I've started to see that a lot of things that hold me back are giving into attraction to things that are not love. So that's my new mantra, is that I release an attraction to anything that is not love. Because just as you were speaking, Jackie, when we say, okay, well, what's aligned with my soul? Well, who can I be? I can be kind. I can be loving. I can be inspiring. Notice how none of those things have to do with how you look or how other people, whether they like you or not, approve of you or not, whether you get a lot of attention. They are qualities of your soul. And when I get into the energy of being attracted to things that are not love, it's when I get their detours, right? When you're chasing after approval, when you're chasing after attention, when you're chasing after externals to decide whether or not you're good enough, you've achieved enough, you're attract, all these things you're basically sort of ditching your soul. You're straying from your soul because you're saying, I don't want to look at my essence. I want to look at the more ego, the more material part of me that gets that quick attention, that gets the quick fix that feels really good, but it doesn't feel good on your soul. It feels good to your ego, but not your soul. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. And then they come to you because they say, why am I unhappy? And I think that's why people are unhappy, because if you're chasing after soul or ego desires, it's quick ephemeral stuff. It's, I would say it's some form of addiction, because you can be addicted to a lot of things, not just a substance or gambling. It can be addiction to attention, confirmation, accolades, all of these things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The, you know, addictions are very high, especially now that you've got internet. So you've got porn addiction, you've got all kinds of addictions,
Sex and love addiction, food
exactly.
addiction,
Yeah,
all the things.
And I think that those addictions, I'm glad you led into that, because I think those addictions are about shutting you use them to shut down your voice, whatever that you use them to, first of all, shut down that abusive brain chatter.
Yes. Well, because you think, you're like, okay, if I can get, you know, this person to approve of me, then my brain will stop yelling at me that I'm not good enough and that people don't like me. Right.
Right.
So we seek it out, but how long does that last?
Well, you know, I want to talk, the point that sparked for me was about people pleasing.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk about it. People pleasers think that they are kind and generous and loving because they always think of other people and they try to do things for other people's approval. But guess what? People pleasing is manipulative and it's dishonest. It's saying, I can't show you who I really am. I'm hiding from you and I'm manipulating you into liking me and to loving me. So I'm going to behave in a way that is not honest. And when you do that, then you really lose your soul. That's when it really, you know, it's like, who am I? Because, you know, I'm being so nice, I'm being so good, but I'm so busy watching if you're going to like me or not, that I'm behaving in a way where I, you know, garner your attention and it's not in alignment with who I am.
Yes.
Right. You know, people who might even say, agree with somebody who their political views just because they want to be liked.
Yes.
And, you know, what if you stood up and showed up for who you were?
Yeah. And I think that's challenging for two reasons. Is that one, I think a lot of people have no idea who they are. They don't know their true beliefs because they've never, just as you said, if you're a people pleaser, you haven't spent much time trying to figure out, well, what do I really feel? When I go into a state of meditation, when I go in to connect with my soul and my heart, what's in my heart? A lot of people don't do that because they've been taught from such an early age that the only thing that matters is that people like you and that people don't dislike you and that you don't do anything to rock the boat or to make anybody say anything bad about you. Because if people say things bad about you, that means that you're bad and you're not good enough. And that's where the brain chatter starts. So they don't know who they are. But then on the other side, they're terrified of stepping out with their own ideas. Because again, we've had experiences in our life where if we said something that was a little bit outside, you know, of the lines, people look at us a weird way, they judge us, they say critical things, and we think, ooh, we're trying to preserve ourselves, self-preservation, right? So we say, I won't do that again. And that's how we fall into people pleasing, because it feels a lot better. Again, but it's like you said, you start doing it just for that. And then you're like, well, what's your real motive? Am I really, we say that it's because we just want to be a kind, nice person. But if you're only being nice to people so that they'll like you and not saying what you really think or what's in your heart, that's not going to feel, you're not going to have that peace and you're not going to have that freedom. Back to that word that I love. True freedom is your full self expressed.
Bingo.
The first job is figuring out what is it even? What's in your heart? What's in your soul that yearns to come through? You got to slow down long enough. You have to quiet down enough. You have to be in the stillness to even know what's in there. And then you have to have the courage to let it come through no matter what anybody says. Because again, to what I was speaking to earlier, our world will change when people are strong enough and brave enough to show their light fully, even if it doesn't quite fit or isn't approved of, or people think it's strange. We're in need of a lot of change in every sector of our world.
And that's what I love about my job and what I do is exactly that. It's like I'm just there with you as you explore that, as you explore who you are. You know, you don't have to feel afraid. We just go at a comfortable pace until you start being able to verbalize, yeah, this, I want to let go of this. Okay, let's let go of this. Let's do a ritual and let's let go of this. And I want to start embracing this. Okay, let's set a goal around this.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so important to, if you are feeling stuck and you're in a job that you're unhappy with, you're in an unhappy relationship, you don't know what you want to do in life. By the way, when you're young, you don't know what you want to do in life. So ease up, how can you possibly know? You haven't seen the world. So it takes a while of some making mistakes to figure out who you are. And I think that's important for growth, is to make those mistakes. But in the end, we all have to take back who we are. And by, like you said, things like meditating is a huge way. I always recommend meditation. I recommend gratitude lists. Write down every morning what you're grateful for. Write down 5 things, 10 things, whatever it is, one thing. But it's important to be grateful in your life, because if you're grateful in your life, one, you're in the present, right? You're not in the future. You're not in the past. You're not in self-pity. You're not in, I can't. You're just fully present. I'm grateful for this day. I'm grateful for where I live. So I start with that, then meditation, then journaling, so that, again, you get to know who you are. And an exercise, I know if people are sitting there going, I don't know who I am, and what do I need to do? What's a start? A wonderful exercise that I tell people is, actually we get Post-it notes, and you get maybe 8 of them, and you put them out across the table and you write on them, what do I value? What do I value in life? So maybe you value family, maybe you value money, maybe you value work, maybe you value adventure, maybe you value free time. You just let yourself write these down, and then you start putting them in order. Do I value family over money? No, no. So I put the family first. Do I value, oh yes, I mean, that would be a yes, thank you. Do I value family over adventure? Do I value, and you start putting them in order until you discover that who you are and what you value. And the cool thing about that is that then you can put these up in your mirror and start going, okay, am I living this value? Am I living adventure? I value it. What could I do to honor that value of mine?
Yeah.
I could maybe plan a trip, or I could take a ride up the coast. Do I value family? Yes, I value family. Well, how much do I communicate with family? Do I maybe need to learn some boundary setting or good communication skills? So you have it right there. You have the blueprint, and you can, on your own, just pick one thing a week and focus on it. And it's a really powerful exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that often people don't take the time to look at the various sectors of their life to see if they're even what the level of fulfillment is for each of them. Right. And that's an exercise I do. I do a wheel. I call it like the wheel of wellness or wheel of life, whatever you want. And you look at those things, you look at your spirituality, your joy, your relationships, your work, and you can see, what am I actually tending to? And I find that most people are only really tending to like 3 or 4 things. They focus on their family, their work, maybe their health, and some socialization, whatever it is. And the rest is they feel they don't have time for. But just to your point, adventure. Like, I love that you said that, because so I've been living as a gypsy, like a vagabond. I decided to pick up and go. And I can't tell you how many people that I tell that to, and they say, oh my gosh, that's so great that you're doing that. I wish I had done that. I think that people don't, because life can go so quickly with our week to week life, right? We get stuck in our structure. We might take a week trip once a year, but are we really actually taking the chances and the risks and having the adventures that we used to dream about maybe when we were younger?
Yeah, no, and you know what? I'm one of those people who said, wow, bravo, because I did not have the courage to go travel through Europe when I had the time and the freedom. And it's a gift I offer I offered all my children and my grandchildren. Sadly, they didn't take me up on it, but I believe that adventure, yeah, and you're right. People will even say to me, because I live in Mexico half the year.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. And so
we got fabulous jewelry that you brought back.
That's right. And so people always say to me, oh, wow, I can't believe you do that. That is just so brave. How did you make that happen? Well, I made that happen.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't let fear stop me. I realized I wanted to travel. I didn't have the money to travel around Europe, so I traveled around Mexico. I found a place that I loved that was very much like Spain, and then I started returning to it, spending more and more time there, and now I can work from afar. So it's winters in Guanajuato, Mexico, and summers in Bend. I created my life. And that is something that I just say to everybody: you can't create it. You have to value it. You have to value it. And I have friends who've never left where they live, and they want to, but again, I say that must not be a value of yours, otherwise you would.
Yes.
Right. And so, don't be afraid to put your values out there and to go for them. And you go for them by taking baby steps. You don't say, oh, I want to travel around Europe, and then quit your job and go travel around Europe, although some people might do that. But you start saying, okay, today I'm gonna see how much a Euro pass costs. Tomorrow I'm gonna see what Airbnbs cost. Baby steps to get you there. It doesn't mean you have to go. It means you just, each week you keep moving towards who you are.
Definitely. And adventure can even be, if we're not at a place in our life where we can take that big leap and do, a year abroad or get on the road with our life, you can also just do little things to have adventures. Adventure can just mean switching up your day to day a little bit, right? There's a lot of research now around the value of novelty versus familiarity, right? So many people's life is so routine and so familiar to them that they're never challenged. And we're going to get into talking about aging. A beautiful way to age, more effectively, gracefully, however you want to say it, is to keep challenging yourself mentally to do things that don't, so that it's not just running this rut. And to my point, you could even, go on Airbnb and do one of those random, they have a surprise me feature on Airbnb. We'll pick a random place for you to go visit. And again, within reason, like even here in Bend, there are so many gems around here that you could shoot out 4 hours away, 2 hours away, and have a totally different experience than you do here with waterfalls or hot springs, or get to the coast, go climb a mountain. Like there is so much you could do that's totally different, and it doesn't even cost that much, and it doesn't take up your whole week. It's just, you could even go for a night, and it gives you that sense of adventure and novelty that I think is so important to staying connected to the excitement and joy that is life, that is your soul wanting to have these new experiences, to have fun.
Well, absolutely. And I know that a lot of times many of my clients will say, oh, but I can't do it. You could go to Mexico, but I couldn't. Well, you know what? I rented out my house. There's cat sitting, dog sitting all across. There's ways to do it. As you said, if you don't have money, you still can do it if that's one of your values and one of your goals.
Yeah.
So, I think that's really important. And the other thing you said about time, and as you're aging, when we're kids, summer goes so slowly. That's because we're discovering. Everything is kind of new to us as kids, and the summer and every day is just kind of like a new adventure when you're a kid. When you get older, every day's the same. Oh, you're going to come home from work, you're going to make a meal, you're going to sit down, watch Jeopardy, and then watch TV and then go to bed. There is nothing stimulating your brain.
Exactly.
And so travel, or like you said, just picking something new, an adventure, really slows down time for you when you're aging. It keeps you young, and it also slows down. When I go to travel, we have to go to a new place. We have to figure out transportation. We have to, figure out the language. It's all new, and it is stimulating.
Yeah.
And it makes old age go so much more slowly. And those of you who are there my age, yes, definitely get out there and make some adventure happen.
Yeah. And then I was just thinking when you were saying that even if you can't, it's not always about travel, make your environment stimulating. My goal is to one day have a ranch and animals and grow my own food. So I sort of put that out as call to the universe, and lo and behold, I find myself in this lovely space I have now, which is a farmhouse. There's goats, and there's a pony, and there's chickens, and there's gardens. And what I found is that every day I go and spend time with plants, with animals, and creating that in your surrounding gives you a sense of that novelty, and but also just excitement and connection with life.
Yes.
That breaks away from some of the mundane, going out and taking that time to slow down, because it actually is a form of meditation, because meditation is just focus and presence, mindfulness. So when you go outside, you turn off your electronics, you're not stuck to your computer, and you take time to be with nature, with the elements, with animals. And it helps you to think in a different way. You notice how life changes a little bit every day. Your flower is blooming that once was just a small bud. The animals are growing, all these different things that and it also helps you be a part of the cycle of life. So that just came to me as something that also is I think really good for the soul.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, yeah. You talk about meditation, and I know I usually assign that to clients, like gratitude lists and meditations. And the thing I get back a lot of times is when they come back, so how did your week go? Did you reach your goals? Well, I didn't meditate. I just don't have time to meditate. I mean, I just and I can't quiet my brain, and that abusive brain chatter and all of that. So they have all these reasons why they can't. But just like you said, I teach them, you can vacuum, and while you're vacuuming, you're going forward and you're saying to yourself backward, or you're saying exhale, inhale. There's so many ways to meditate. And when you're outside, when I was riding my bike today, I really tumbled on the fact that I feel so grateful in my life, but when I'm on my bike, I don't know what it is. My husband said the same thing. It's the wind blowing in my face, the sun shining, I'm out, all my senses are alive. I feel so alive, awake, and grateful. So something as simple as a bike ride, can bring out that child in you, and that can be meditative.
Absolutely. It's and also with bike, I just recently got a bike. The owners that live here were like, we just found a bike in the garage, want us to clean it up for you. And I go biking every day. I look forward to it. I'm big into the power of movement. I think that there's obviously being a nomad. I love driving. I think that driving is also a form of meditation for some people. If there's a stretch of road that you love to drive down, a pretty view, that it's just like with a bike, there's the repetitive motion of the wheels and just feeling that sense of movement, because our body is never fully at rest. There's our body is always moving. It's the nature of atoms that we're made up of. So when we're in movement, it's almost comforting to us, right? But it helps to process things. We can do some of our best revelations, make decisions when we're in some sort of motion. So they call it moving meditation, whether it's on a bike, whether it's driving, whether it's walking, all of these, whether it's even vacuuming, literally anything can be meditation. Washing dishes for some people, even some people love scrubbing, just that motion, the repetitive motion brings you into focus, brings you into the sense of rhythm. It's all about rhythm. Rhythm is a very important thing. That's also why humans are very drawn to music. That can also be soothing for us and release, some tension and that brain chatter. So all these things are connected in the way that they free us and help us to get into the flow, into the rhythm.
Absolutely. And breathing is a rhythm, right? We come into this planet, come into it, smacked on the booty, and we start breathing, and with our last dying breath, it's all about the breathing slows and then it stops. So yes, breathing and connecting, like you said, washing dishes. I was sharing with you that I'm starting to do not podcast, but my Facebook, Instagram post from my bathtub. And I know that sounds crazy, but you know what happens when I take a bath a lot when I can.
Oh, that's another great thing.
Yes, water,
being in water.
Absolutely.
So amazing for us. Cause we're also, 99% water. So again, just like with movement, that helps us feel like more in our essence. We feel restored.
Just like when we were in the womb. I mean, I did one of those things where they, meditations, the Watsu, I think, where they move you like you're in a womb. They actually,
are you in the water?
Breath, you're in the water, and the guy holds you like you're, and just moves you around, and you're coming up, and then you're going back in the water, and it's like you're in the womb. So I really love that process. So I put in a bunch of bubble baths. I put a crystal chandelier above my head that was cheap, but it was a chandelier.
You have a crystal chandelier in your bathroom?
I do, in my
Over your
bathroom,
bathtub.
over my bathtub. I do.
That's
because-
amazing.
And I have lots of bubble baths, and I just fill it up with bubbles, and then I'll just sit there, and I like hot water, so I don't even put on the cold water. I just love hot water. And I just sit there, and then suddenly it's like popcorn, you know, the bubbles. It's like the bubbles are popping, and I start thinking about things, and I start seeing things. And so I thought to myself, well, bring your phone into the bath, which my husband hates, but I'm careful. And, you know, just start, when these bubbles start coming up from the bath, share them with people, because I feel like they're really great insights. It's like, oh, wow, I never looked at it that way. And so anyway, that's
Oh my gosh,
my
that's
meditation.
fantastic. What do you call it? Like bubble bath revelations? Or
Bubbles from the bath.
bubbles from the bath, little bubbles of bursts of ideas,
Exactly.
inspiration, wisdom. That's so fantastic. I wish I had a bathtub. I absolutely
I know.
adore, I'm such a, you know, hot, warm, I love hot springs. I love hot tubs. I love a hot bath.
Yeah.
So fantastic. So Jacquie, you also have started doing retreats for women that I imagine incorporate a lot of this, but what have you started it, or is the first one coming up this summer?
No, I've done them before.
Okay.
I've done them in Mexico, and I've done about, I think I counted about 13 or 14 retreats in all. And the ones that are coming up this year are a 1-day retreat where we do sound bowl. I'm also a sound bowl practitioner. I got my
I should have asked you
certificate.
to bring one today.
Yes,
I love
so I do
bowls.
sound bowls. I brought cacao back from the Mayan culture. I brought Mayan cacao back so we could do a cacao ceremony. I lead you on guided meditations, as I mentioned, to find your spirit guide, your soul, and we dance, we laugh, healthy eating. It's a 1-day retreat, and it really is invigorating and refreshing. And I think I call it renew, refresh, and regenerate or something, because that's what it does. And I love it. And I limit it to about 12 women, and it's about 6 hours, I think. And so, yes, it's on my website. So if anybody's in the area and they would love to come, I would love for you to come. You will definitely have fun and experience self-discovery. I can promise you that, or your money back.
I can imagine. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's coming up at the end of July,
At the end of July, July 30th. And then in September, I'm doing something that I did last year in fall, which was a 3-day retreat. And in the 3-day retreat, we all stay together, and we incorporate yoga in the morning, and art, and just a lot more deep exercises. That abusive brain chatter that we talked about.
Yes.
We kind of address that. I give you the space to allow it to speak, and with somebody there recording what it's saying, so that you can feel safe to just let it go. And then you can go look back on it and go, oh, wow, this is what I'm saying to myself? It's awareness. The first step is awareness. So those are the kinds of things we do on the 3-day. And then my favorite thing that I'm doing is I'm doing a women's retreat in Guanajuato, Mexico. So that's where I live half the year. And I'll pick you up from the airport, and then we go to a house, a nice big house, and we spend a week there with I bring in somebody, she's somebody from the indigenous culture, and she does the cacao ceremony, and we do a lot more work. But you also get to travel. You get to go off for a couple of days and sightsee and shop, and people say Mexico is kind of a scary place, but it really isn't if you make sense, if you know where to go and what to do. It's very safe. But if you feel like you want to come with somebody, a guide, I'm going to be your guide. And you're going to also, like I say, if you're going to go on vacation, why not come back transformed?
Yes.
That's my saying.
Yeah, why not? We're going to go for it. And it sounds very transformational.
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful and so fantastic, Jacquie. And then back to the brain chatter aspect. You are also writing a book.
Yes.
Right now. You're in the process of that very challenging gestation period whenever I have authors come on my show, I kind of am in awe of them, because it can be challenging to write a book, to pull all the ideas together, to get it out, but you're doing it. So how's it going?
You know, I'm learning so much, because I think what authors struggle with is abusive brain chatter. And
So you're writing the book
I'm
about
writing
it
a
while you're
book about
having it.
it, and
Very
you know,
meta.
exactly, and I get to experience it. It's like, I start thinking, oh, do I, is this something, that I want to say? Is this, I start thinking, should I share this much, or what is people going to think about that? When I do that, I get completely out of the book, and I get writer's block. Completely. If I'm thinking about you sitting there reading it, rather than the way what I need to deliver, what I want to share, then I start hearing your voice tell me, oh, this isn't good. This doesn't make sense. You're an imposter. So I'm learning every step of the way about the whole creative process as well.
Yeah.
But, for me, abusive brain chatter was something that held me back. I married an emotional abuser because, and the chatter that he would give me would just echo the chatter that I felt. If I talked to myself nice, I wouldn't let other people talk to me that way. And
Yeah.
so that was the work I had to do. I had to first, so I'm writing the ABCs of abusive brain chatter. The first is awareness. And that's what I was sharing with you. As I'm writing this book, I'm aware. What's my brain saying to me? Is it telling me I can't? And if it's telling me I can't, I need to check in with that. So first, be aware of what you're telling yourself. Is it nice? Be aware of the signs of abuse, which are belittling, bullying, gaslighting, isolating, all of those things. If you're in an addiction, there's no way you're not belittling, feeling shame, and isolating. That is just goes along with the territory. So just be aware that the way you're talking to yourself is a form of emotional abuse. And when I clicked to that, I realized, wow, I left my emotional abuser. I don't want to take him with me. I did for several years. And that's when, I finally got it. And that's when the change came, the transformation for me. I finally said, wait a minute, we don't get to talk to Jacquie this way. And then I got to find a new belief. So that's where the B comes in. Awareness is the A, B is believe. And that for me was my spiritual journey. My spiritual journey is the one that said, wait a minute, whoa, you need help. Go get help. You're not going to fix this on your own. Your brain is not going to fix this. I always say, you don't go in to fix your brain with your own brain. It ain't going to happen, because if it did happen, I would have done it years ago. Right. So I tapped into that is where my spiritual journey began. And so now when the brain chatter comes, I take the moment, I pause, I tune in, and I ask to get out of my own way, get out of my ego, and let me hear what I need to hear. So that's the B. And the C, which is the most important, which has been a lot of work, and the work that you do as a therapist, is challenge your core beliefs, because your core beliefs really feed that chatter. So if you believe that women should not have a voice, you're gonna, when you start to have a voice, your chatter is gonna say, oh, don't say that, don't do that, and you're gonna back down. If you believe that you're not smart, your whole life you were told, oh, you're such a dummy. Sadly to say, I hear a lot of people whose parents did that to them. They gave them those horrible messages. If you believe you're not smart, then going to school and getting a degree is going to be so painful, because every step of the way, your brain chatter is going to be saying, oh, quit. You should quit. You're not smart enough. Look at you. You got a C on that test. Every single time you go to step out and do something, your brain chatter is going to hold you back. And I know that personally. My brain chatter held me back for 42 years. And like I said, so now when it comes up, it starts to go challenge that core belief. So I say, okay, higher power, whatever you want to call it. I'm aware that I'm talking to myself about this book. I'm aware that fear is talking. I'm aware that it's a fear voice. And help me come from a place of giving rather than ego. Help me say what I need to say, what you need to hear. Help me come from that place. And then I say, really? You're not a writer? You've written your whole life. You've been a writer your whole life. You've written columns. Really? Why can all these other people write and you can't? Where did that belief come from? And when I challenge it, I go, yeah, no, that's just writer's block. That's just what people go through. And you have to persevere. You have always been told, or you have always let yourself off the hook when things get hard. That was my practice. Things get hard and my chatter gets too loud and I quit. And of course, then you feel like a quitter. Then shame piles on, and then this piles on. And then, so you never take a chance. Well, I teach people that, you have to do the ABCs when something's holding you back and you find you're not reaching your goals. Step back a minute and say, what am I telling myself about this? What is the real belief that I want to believe? Where can I find that? And see, let me challenge that. How old am I? When did I learn that? Who told me that? Is that really true? And it sounds simplistic, but to me, it's just a quick way, once I've done the work, to go back and move forward in the writing process. That was, this has been a goal of mine almost my entire life. And it's just like, why not?
Why not?
Exactly.
Well, it's inspiring and great. And I'm so excited for you that you're doing it.
Yeah.
And what you described that's holding you back from writing is the ABCs is what holds people back from their entire life, from their full potential. Right. And I've recently come to a place in my life where I feel this very strong juncture that's saying, are you going to go another round with this voice? And recently this thought came to me that said, this voice is leaving me now. And I've been repeating that to myself. This voice is leaving me now. It's leaving me now, because I've had that voice in my head, that chatter that says, you knew you weren't good enough. You knew they weren't going to like you. You knew you had no business doing this. And I started questioning, well, where is this voice and why do I choose to engage with it? Why do I choose to keep it around? And it also made me realize that, you work with people in relationships, and that's another area of my life I've been looking at. And I realized this isn't a one-sided thing. It's not like I'm the victim of bad relationships. I'm engaging in lower level unhealthy relationships because I have been in an unhealthy relationship with myself.
Right.
Because that's where we're at when we have not addressed the ABCs, and we're operating from those core false beliefs that tell us that we're not good enough. We don't love ourselves.
Right.
We don't think that we can, because all we hear most of the time, 90% of the day, is these acknowledgments of our perceived deficits. And that's a brutal place to live. It is like living in an abusive relationship, but it's you that you're in the abusive relationship with. And then, so it really hit me. I was like, well, why did I tolerate this behavior from another person? And I realized, well, it's because you tolerate it with yourself. So I'm at this point where it's like, this is not dependent on any outside factors. It's completely an inside job.
Yes.
To take, because it is entirely possible to shift, to stop engaging with the false beliefs and begin creating new beliefs, right? The last word was challenge yourself.
Right.
Challenge yourself to say, I don't like this belief and it's never been true and it's not true now. And I can choose to have a new belief, but it does take tapping in with your soul, because your soul knows that it's not just all about you. Your soul is here to bring forth something into this world for the highest good of all. And that, of course, includes ourselves, because we will have a better experience once we accept ourselves and stop treating ourselves like trash. But we do have to get out of ourselves, because I will also say that victim mentality can be addictive. To think like, well, of course I couldn't do that. And of course I can't do this because and so we keep ourselves small. It takes a truly courageous being to say, I need to let go of this, because even though it feels subconsciously safer, feeling locked away in that safe corner is too painful now.
Right. And exactly. I mean, for me, it was so important to challenge it, because I was going to go on. I said to myself, the question I asked myself, and I write this in my book, is that at the age of 42, I was lying in bed watching TV, binge eating, had an asthma inhaler because I couldn't breathe anymore. I mean, I had just gotten to the breaking point. And I asked myself that very question. Do you want to live the second half of your life like you lived the first half? And man, the second half of my life the first half was brutal. And the second half is glorious. I know. So ask yourself that. And if that's the case, then seek help to change it. It takes, again, don't go there alone. If you try to go into your brain alone and you don't have the tools, it's gonna beat you up. It's just
It
gonna,
will.
it's gonna even, you're gonna feel shame that that you can't change.
Yeah.
You know, I have clients who, I come to you and I'm changing, but I don't feel it's fast enough and all of this. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There's that abusive brain chatter again. You're
Yeah.
changing, you're growing. Let's embrace that. Let's not let that chatter hold you back anymore.
Yes, definitely. And I also would offer to whoever might be listening that is thinking about this, thinking about, wow, I feel I'm at that point too, where whether we feel we're halfway through our life or at like a significant shifting point in our life, and we say, what do I want the next decade to be like? What do I want the next half of my life to be like? To be aware that, so I made that declaration when I turned 36. I woke up and I just had that sense where I was like, just like you did, it's like thinking back to my last 36 years, do I want them to be like that? No, I want to reach my potential. I want to start really, because I see my first 36 years as having so much like tension. There was a lot of friction. So I didn't move very smoothly because everything was stopping me, my own doubts, my own fears, my own perceived limitations, taking everything too personally, getting so caught up in my own negative beliefs. And so I thought, okay, from here on out, it's going to be different. Great. I'm starting a new path. And what I'm offering to listeners is that sometimes when you make that declaration, you have to realize that change does not come without friction that allows you, just like they say a coal becomes a diamond only through the friction. Well, when I made that declaration, life came in and said, okay, you want a different experience, then you have to change. And so it gave me hurdles in my path. I went into what I would call a dark night of the soul, where I had to actually face the stuff that was keeping me tied into the brain chatter, into the core false beliefs, into these patterns that I didn't want anymore, because patterns aren't just going to disappear. You have to look them right in the face.
Absolutely.
And you have to take accountability and say, this is of my own doing. I'm ready to break these cycles. I'm ready to break these habits. I'm ready to change these beliefs. And that's not easy work. It's not for the faint of heart to go in. Yeah, it's a real, they call it the dark night of the soul, because you get to this point where it's just you and whether you want to call it God or source or life itself. And you have to look at it and be completely honest and say, I played the biggest part in everything that's happened to me. If I want a new experience, I have to change.
Right, exactly. And it is a very important process that, victimhood, you have to say that isn't there anymore. You have to stay in your own lane. I talk about life as a bowling lane. This is finally what I learned. Stay in my lane. And if I'm in someone else's lane, either thinking they don't like me or trying to manipulate them, then I need to get back into my lane.
Yes.
And just, it's got those little bumpers on it, like bowling alleys do. Stay in your lane, and you will always take responsibility for who you are, and you will have the power to throw the ball where you want it to go.
Absolutely. And that's what I was sort of speaking to when I said this mantra I have of I release attraction to anything that is not love. Is that's when you want to veer from your lane, is you're like, ooh, I wonder if I could win these people over, or get this person to be interested in me, or, be really successful at this thing that isn't really aligned with my soul's path, but feels very tempting. It's the temptations, right? It's the ego. It's the core false beliefs that want to be healed, that are saying, well, but if you can get, this person's attention, then maybe you're going to feel good. Yeah, but for a moment, right? Until the next thing comes along. So it's about that's the higher choice that you have to keep making over and over again is this, if this is not for my highest good, if this is not aligned with my heart's desire, my soul's path, I'm not going to be drawn to it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Very well said.
And I think one of the hardest things, and I'd love for us to get into this now, is when it comes to image and, especially for women, our identity is tied very strongly to how we're perceived, how we look, how people respond to us. And that's one of the biggest challenges I'm facing, is how can you keep with your soul without being attracted again to these? I mean, there's nothing wrong with feeling desirable and feeling beautiful. Feminine is radiance. That's what feminine is. It is the attractor. We are meant to attract, just like the egg with the sperm. When we came into conception, we had to attract it. We're all gorgeous in our own way, in our own unique radiance. But when we try to be like somebody else, or we get pulled into wanting to please or get 100% approval rating, we veer away from our soul and we start to dip into that ego. So especially as you get older, I'm not in my 20s anymore. You're going into your older age. We're all getting older.
Right.
But that's also the thing to remember, is like, it's not like there's some people who like dodge the bullet. We're all going to get older. People who are 20 now are going to be 70 someday. So how do we learn to honor our soul more than our physical space? The physical vessel is sacred, just as everything else. However, it's not higher than our soul. It's not deserving of precedence over honoring our soul. So how do you guide women as we're aging, as we're ever growing wiser with more wisdom, but also we're changing and we may not get the same attention anymore or the same acknowledgement. And if we're attached to that, how do you help people to have that relationship where they feel it, where they value peace and freedom more than the external?
Yeah. And that's important. And you know, the first step to aging is, and the first step to everything in life that you learn is acceptance. Yeah. Accept that this is going to happen and accept that it is happening. I remember I was in an elevator with my daughter-in-laws. We were in Las Vegas, and we all got into the elevator, and there were men in the elevator, and they turned to look at them. And I went, oh, okay. I'm invisible now. That's okay. So now that I'm invisible, what can I do? Right. And so I had to start, it was very empowering. You know, once you shed the earth suit, I call it. In fact, one of the meditations I do for women is to help them, you know, we go and we unzip the earth suit and we bring out our light. And you get to step out of it. And then as we're finishing the exercise, you get to choose whether you're going to go back into your earth suit or are you going to remain white light? Well, I decided the path that I took that I feel has been just glorious for me is that I choose to unzip my earth suit and be the light. I choose to have wisdom. I choose to be generous. I choose to laugh. I choose to wear weird things. I have sparkly glasses. That was my little soul as little Jacqueline. She used to love sparklies and things like that. And then that kind of got shut off as I started wearing black and to look thinner. And, you know, I started changing for how you wanted me to look and how they wanted me to look and how I had to look to get a man in my life. Well, now I'm thinking, well, I don't have to do that anymore. So now what am I going to do with all that energy? Well, I'm going to love myself. I'm going to grow. I'm going to learn. I'm going to take classes. I went back to the university at age 64. I became a life coach, you know, 4 years ago. And I just keep getting to do what I didn't do for myself as a child. And that is brings my childlike to myself. And I want to be that person that people see and smile at, not that they see my wrinkles. And you know, that is hard. It is a challenge because I will admit, you know, I go into the mirror or we all know this, Zoom comes on. How many of us do this when Zoom comes on or start doing this or start, you know, we start looking at how we look. And I have to treat myself with the same gentleness of abusive brain chatter. I have to say, Jacquie, you're a 71-year-old woman. What's happening to you on the outside is happening to you on the inside. So you don't have a lot of time to be in your ego anymore. You have to find your soul's purpose and live it, because I mean, knock, knock, knock on heaven's door. It's happening. TikTok. I always say that to myself. TikTok, TikTok. Do I really want to sit here and worry about the way I look? Or do I want to, you know, sometimes I look in the mirror and I see I told you this, I look in the mirror and I see my grandmother and whoa, I'm taken aback. And then I go, hi, Grandma, you know, or I see my dad's nose, you know, starting to get a little round and I go, hi, Dad, you know. And I just remind that is a ritual that helps me remind myself that I don't get to beat myself up in old age. I now, more than in my youth, I no longer have time to worry about the way I look. I can have fun with my looks. I can look the best I can. I can put on makeup, but I don't have time to shut out my spirit in favor of presenting myself to the world and getting your love. My love and everything that I need comes when I meditate. and I elevate myself and I feel that power, I feel that white light, that is so much better than you saying to me, oh, wow, you look so young. Doesn't matter to me anymore. I am 71 years old. This is the reality. The hands wrinkle, the the skin ages, but hey, folks, that's going on the inside. So haven't got time for the pain, as I say.
Yeah, such a gorgeous message. And that when you said that, I felt like this surge of empowerment, because it's, if we could inspire women to not shut down their light, to see that their radiant spirit is the most glorious thing they could ever have, because it's infinite. First of all, it does not change. Our spirit doesn't age. It doesn't get wrinkled. It's infinite. It's always the most radiant, vibrant, gorgeous, unbelievable, brilliant thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yes.
So, and people will say all the time, there's certain people that are more, alluring, that they're just like, wow, you're glowing. This person is radiant. Well, that's because their spirit is shining.
Yes.
But just what you said, we shut down our spirit. I think most of us make that choice because we say, my spirit, what good is that? I want to look right. I want to be hot. I want to be the one that everyone's paying attention to. And I hate to say the term like sell our soul, but that's sort of what we do. If you shut down your spirit, you're literally saying to your soul, I'm not going to focus on you. I'm going to focus on making sure that externally I'm approvable. And if we could shift that, if the tides can change with that, people will have a whole new experience, because I don't believe it's impossible to make the shift from valuing our soul greater than our ego or our earth body, you called it?
Yeah, earth suit.
Earth suit. Like our earth suit is cheap. It only lasts 100 years at this point, max for most people. But our soul is eternal. And I think it's an immature mentality that humans have, to be more invested in something that only lasts 100 years. But it's also because most people don't feel like we don't know for sure about the notion of a soul or our brilliance or our light. Right. But they were like, show me the money, show me the proof. Well, I know that my body can get me, opportunities. It can get me attention. It can feed my ego. So I'm going to invest in that. But then what do those people do when they get older? It's a whole thing with women who get older. And just like you said, you get in an elevator and suddenly the men are looking at someone younger than you. And you think, oh, it can be very shocking for certain women who maybe were very attractive their whole life. And all of a sudden their identity crisis hits, because they say, what am I if I'm not the good looking woman that used to get praised and loved? If you have not tapped into your soul, you feel void.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, the not learning acceptance of aging is so painful. When I, like I said to you, when I sit around women my age and we sit and have lunch and they start bringing up how horrible they look or what plastic surgery they have to have or whatever it is, it hurts. And I grew up with a mother who was always disapproving of my looks. So I had to learn that this doesn't matter. So I was a lucky one, although it was a painful lesson. I was the lucky one.
Yeah.
And I practice complete acceptance. If you're not in acceptance of who you are, then you're either in the past trying to be something you're not, or you're in the future thinking about the people who will like you if you look a certain way. You are not in the present. And as you age, you don't have time to be anywhere but the present. Like we talked about, the adventure and all of those things. You don't have time to be anywhere but the present. So aging, what I would say is, start writing down on Post-it notes, my favorite thing. One of the gifts of aging. If you can't find a gift of aging, keep working until you do. There's so many gifts. There's a lot more time. There's a lot more freedom. There's a lot more wisdom. And I've heard you feel much more comfortable in your own skin with yourself than you did at an earlier age, if you were constantly controlled or affected by everything that happened around you. What I've heard is that and I've even experienced, now that I'm 37, way more comfort and ease with myself than I did 10 years ago in my 20s. And I've heard that just increases. And yes, the freedom is so wonderful. It is. We sit, 4th of July, we sat at we have our condo is facing the river. And we sat on the river and as the young kids walked by for the freedom ride. And it was such a weird experience. They were having so much fun that I found myself transported into their bodies, as they were walking along and laughing in their bikinis and bathing suits. And And I started thinking, oh, gee, that is just, it just kind of brought up that joy for me. And then I realized that was a part of me. That's not separate from me. That woman lives in me still.
Yes.
And I get the memories. And I can either, like I said, I can either start fighting the future, or I can just, what did I learn? Oh, how beautiful that time of life was. At the time, it didn't feel beautiful because I was so worried about getting a boy's attention. But now I can look back and see that that is beautiful and freedom. And the time I was a mother, and the time I had my babies, and the time I, was a single woman out dancing. And, I get to look back and kind of, weave it all together now.
Yeah.
I get to like a little old lady knitting, I get to kind of weave my life together and then look at it as a tapestry. And that's what I suggest people do. What is the wisdom of aging? What did you learn? What was a good time in your life? That's all part of you. That's not gone. That's part of you.
Yeah.
And embrace that.
Absolutely. I've been inspired to do a life review recently. That's something that's come up, which is where you just kind of go back and, take stock of your life and look at the different events and the ebbs and the flows and the different time periods. Because we've all had those moments of nostalgia you describe where we think back to a part of our life, even one that might have been challenging, and we just get a smile and we think, what a crazy ride, right? Like what an adventure. And oh my gosh, remember this time and that time. And if we never stop to think about that, then it is a little bit like we're discounting because those parts still live within us. Our 8-year-old self, our 18-year-old self, our 25-year-old self are still in there. And especially if we had some negative associations with different times, it's important to go back and see the love that happened there. And, or if we can't, if it's hard to see the love, to see where did we grow from this? How did this event help us to come to a certain light about ourselves or about life or about growth, development, change? Because everything holds love and everything holds value. There's nothing that happens to us without reason, without purpose.
Right. And, that's what life's about, learning the lessons.
Yeah. And enjoying the ride.
Having
some fun. I always say that, like, people put joy near the bottom of their list. We live in such a serious world.
Yeah.
And I've heard that's the nice thing about aging is people get less serious, right? They're like, oh God, I don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care what I wear. I don't care what this, I just want to feel some joy. And it's a shame because what I've heard is that the absolute purpose of life is joy, right? Is to experience. Your soul literally came here to be expressed in its own unique way that it only can in this earth plane. But most of us shut it down and we say, no, this is serious stuff. There's, these things are very important. I have to take care of my bills and my, this, that, and the other thing. And we don't take time for our own expression of our soul, which is joy. Joy is our soul expressed.
Exactly. And, that's exactly what I discovered when I went back and found my soul. I even have a picture of myself as a 4-year-old girl before I lost my soul. And I keep it up on my wall. And she was playful. She was happy. She was shy. She was, I just remember that little girl. I remember how innocent and, I loved bling. I loved flowers. I love making my own perfume.
Out of rose petals and stuff. So fun. Flower petals.
That little stuff that you could just do and have fun before all of the trauma and all of the things that were, sent me in a direction. And so I now, as an older woman, I am that crazy, that woman you see who wears weird glasses. I have so many rhinestones at home. When I go to Mexico,
all the rhinestones.
Yes, that's what I love about Mexico. I get to go wear my rhinestones, flowers in my hair, bright colors, and you
can do that here too.
I do sometimes, and people have seen me and know that my husband and I we both have embraced that.
Good.
Embrace that aging means we get to be, wear the hats. We get to, we get to do the things that little Jacqueline wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so she's here with me, and I'm so glad I got her back. And I'll tell you what, no one is getting through to hurt her. Not me and not anyone else in the world. I got her back.
She's number one.
She's number one.
You got to keep them number one.
She's on my watch list.
Well, Jacquie, as we kind of wrap things up, do you have, in your place of wisdom, we just spoke about how you look at your 4-year-old self, 4-year-old Jacquie, before you say that you've sort of left your soul behind, where you felt disconnected. Do you think that there's a future where we don't experience that, where we are able to change so much as a species, as a society, that people don't feel shut down and they don't ever lose that spark of joy and delight with life? We're able to get the message that even if you face adversity, those challenges, it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you, that we don't create these core false beliefs. Do you think that that'll be possible someday?
You know, I don't. I think that's part of the human condition and part of growing. And I think parents can certainly help by allowing kids to evolve how they want to evolve, rather than telling them how they should dress and how they, that's how it happens. You go to school, you're told how to behave. So I don't know that that's ever gonna, gonna end, because just imagine the message you get if you get a bad grade and people laugh at you. I mean, there you go. That's right there. Boom. And you've shut yourself off and you have a belief you're dumb. And so it doesn't just have to, it's just the way society keeps, and religion, even religion keeps you in line, in a box,
caged in.
Exactly. It's what we have to do to survive. So,
but we might not always have all these same structures, though.
No,
I will say that we might evolve past that in different ways.
I hope so.
Anything's
I hope
possible. Well, I personally believe that change happens first by speaking about it, by offering ideas out into the world, because I always say that what I love about podcasts is you never know whose ears it might fall upon, who needed to hear just what we said that might spark something in them. So thank you for being a spark into the world on my show today. This has been so much fun hanging out on my couch with you and talking about all these wonderful, profound, beautiful topics. You really inspired me to just really focus on letting my soul shine, just letting all those things just slide right past you that want to deter you from it, right? Where it's, oh, well, I wonder if I can get them. If you're ever trying to get something or force something, that's when I know that I'm deviating from my soul, because your soul doesn't know anything about trying to force anything. It's just a pure expression. It can't be limited, right?
Yes.
All right, Jacquie. Well, thank you again for joining us. Where can people find you if they'd like to learn more about your work, your retreats, work with you as a coach?
Well, my website is Healing ABC, Healing HEALING ABC, and you can find out information. You can, talk with me, have a free consultations, find out about my retreats, whatever you want to do. I'm here to support you. So don't worry. Consultations are free. If you need a half hour, an hour to just work something through, I completely am here for you.
Beautiful. Awesome, Jacquie. Well, thank you again. Lovely speaking with you. Keep wearing those rhinestones. I'm going to wear them too. Take care.